Hello, and welcome to another fanfiction reading. This time it's My Fair Lady by, oh my god, Asher Rosaline. I don't know. This one I do actually remember, and if I remember it correctly, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Hopefully not as many garbage lines and other stuff like there was in the last one. I'm just gonna ignore the text message as well. It'd be really funny. It was just my friend taking forever to reply and just replying at the exact wrong time. Anyways, Chapter 1. As I was wiping the tables and getting ready to close the cafe, I heard the jingle of the door. I looked back at the direction of the door and smiled. Sorry, but we're closed. Car. Day. Where do you think you're going, cat? He says, stepping towards me. I step back. You still owe me money. He roughly grabbed my chin towards him. You better get my money or there will be consequences. He smirked at his friends and they all left the cafe. I sighed frustratingly as I cleaned up the door, and after I was satisfied, I locked the doors and started to walk home. Once I got home, I noticed my cat, Noir's food bowl was empty. I picked up the bowl and started to walk to my kitchen, and then started pouring some meow mix into the bowl and got out into the backyard. I started to shake the bowl. Noir, I shook the bowl again. I stopped shaking the bowl and noticed a shadowy figure on the ground. I stared at the figure, which looked like a body. Oh god. The grammar's already screwed up. I slowly start to walk back into the house without turning around, keeping my eyes off. Keeping my eyes on the body. I see the body shift and stands quickly. I then felt arms wrapped around my waist. Shh, just let me drink your bleh. Before she could finish, I immediately elbowed her gut and quickly kicked her, but she grabbed my foot before I could. She pushed me on the floor. Well, are you a feisty little kitty? She smirked. I think you made me open my wound, she winced. I looked down at her stomach and saw blood soaking up in her shirt. God dang it. I pushed her off. Sorry, I guess you don't know me. My name is Yang Xiaolong, she said and grinned, and then saw her fangs, sharp and gleaming in the moonlight. I took a sharp breath. You're a vampire? Yang's POV. I don't know. I don't know if I should say whose POV it is. I honestly don't know. And maybe I should. Whatever. Yang's POV. You're a vampire, she said, obviously shocked. I nodded. Well, not exactly. I paused. I am to be stitched. She looked a bit hesitant. Please, she knits her lip and nods. She nudges me to follow her inside. I do. She then walks away as soon as I sit in the living room's couch. In the couch. Being careful not to stain her black leathery couch. I see her come back into the room with a first aid box in her hand. She makes me hold my shirt up while she cleaned and stitched my wound. She places the first aid kit on the coffee table, and the room fills with an awkward silence. Okay. The grammar is terrible, but I think the story is pretty good, okay? If I remember right. So, what's your name? I looked at her, eyeing her face. Her amber eyes perfectly complemented her raven hair, perfectly sculpting her face. Her pink, soft cheeks made her cute, fluffy cat ears make her even cuter. I looked at her lips full and pink. I shifted in my seat uncomfortably. She looked down and twiddled with her fingers. I'm Blake Belladonna, she says softly, finally looking up at me, slightly smiling. I returned the smile. Well, Blake, I owe you a favor. I pretended to be thinking. How about a date? Her eyes widened slightly. She frowned slightly. How did you get hurt anyway? She ignored my question. I twitched. I sigh internally and reply. Well, do you know the White Rose Club? She nods. They usually host fights. I decided to fight a guy, and the guy I defeated stabbed me. I pushed my hair back behind. What happened to your chin? It's red. I had just noticed her reddened chin. She touches her chin, wincing slightly. Oh, it's nothing. She looks away from my gaze and stands up walking towards the door. Alright, I need to go to bed. I stand in front of the couch. You need to leave. She opened the door and gestured toward towards the door. Oh, Blake, you can't get rid of me so easily. She raised an eyebrow. I'm still wounded. I need to rest and heal up. Are you making an injured person go out there and fend for herself? You're so cruel. I pouted. She rolled her eyes, then she looked at me thinking for a bit. She then groaned. Fine, you can stay, but you're sleeping on the couch. And she yelled frustratingly and closes the door, locking it in the process. She eyes me a bit and then walks to a closet nearby and throws me a blanket and a pillow, and she stomps upstairs. I chuckle and shake my head. I walk towards the couch and set the pillow and let the blanket surround me, using my body heat warm up the blanket in myself. Okay. I close my eyes and sighed comfortably. I was awoken by the smell of food. I slowly got up, stretching, and started dragging my legs towards the kitchen. I rubbed my eyes and sighed happily, and as I enter the kitchen, I am faced with Blake's black back cooking something over the stove. I leaned against the island centered in the kitchen. It smells delicious, I say sluggishly. She turns to me, her eyes twinkling with humor. I thought vampires only drank blood. I burst out laughing. Her cheeks reddened, and she looked away. Sorry, I paused, gathering myself before I have another laughing fit. As I said before, I'm only half vampire, so that makes me half human, so I can eat food as well. She nods slowly and hands me a plate of pancakes and some syrup. I pulled a chair to the island and sat down and poured some syrup and started eating. Hey, Blake. She looks up from her plate. Her cheeks were puffed up, and she quickly chews and swallows. Yeah, she cocked her head to the side. Where do you work? Eh. She stands up and throws away the of what's left of the pancakes and goes to the sink and cleans her plate. I work at a cafe. She paused, frowned a bit. The cafe is called Sunflower. I nodded and finished up my pancakes. I walked toward the sink and cleaned my plate. I looked at her and she looked at me curiously. I'll join you, I smile. She sighs and closed her eyes. I bet you won't take no for an answer. I smiled and nodded furiously. She went upstairs to get ready, as did I. Then we headed out and walked to the cafe. It's pretty close by where she lived. She took out some keys and opened the cafe. It was dark inside, and she went and turned on the lights. I looked at Blake and saw her go into the back somewhere. She came back, but now she was wearing an apron, and her hair was pulled into a tight ponytail. Yang, since you're here, I smiled a bit at the way my name rolled off her tongue naturally. I waited for her to continue. She threw me an apron. Can you help me unless you have something else to do? I shake my head. I'll do it, I said as I pull the apron over my head and tie it at my back. Cafe. Blake had introduced me to them all. I met Ren, the main cook of this cafe, and his wife Nora, who's a waitress. Pierre, Coco, and Velvet are also waitresses, and John works at the register. A few customers came in, and I greeted them and took their orders and served them. Once it was closing time, I sighed, tiring. I didn't even know it was as tiring being a waitress. I said to nobody but myself. Everyone had just left, and I sat down in one of the booths. Blake placed a cup of coffee on the table and sat across from me. On the Blake, referring to the cafe's staff. She nods in response. I soft say thank you and take a sip. Yeah, they are. She smiled, looking down at the booth's table and making circles with her finger. I smiled back, and she looked up and smiled at me, but her smile quickly faded. Behind me, I hear the window shatter. Ooh. What am I even doing right now? Okay, chapter 2. Uh, no. There's like 12 actual chapters. Yang's POV. I grabbed Blake and pulled her close to my chest, holding her tightly. Bullets shot through all over the room. We quickly got under the table for protection. I looked at her. Her eyes were filled with an emotion I can't describe. The shooting stops. Blake, I say. She looks up at me. Stay under, okay? She nods. I quickly get out from under the table and smirk at the broken glass and walk towards it, grabbing some glass and throw it really hard at the culprits. You damn bitch. I saw the man holding his face, blood seeping through his hands. Yang, watch out, I hear Blake yell. I looked at her. I quickly moved behind him. Then I quickly sank my fangs into his neck, felt blood going down my throat. It tasted bitter. I moved back from him, watching his body drop with a thud. I smiled and licked the small blood trickled out of my mouth. I then drank the blood of the other gunman, and they like the first, fell with a thud. I walked over the blood-drained body. I walked over the blood-drained bodies and made my way towards Blake, who was still hiding under the table. Blakey, her watery amber eyes peered into my lavender ones. Yang, are you okay? She asked worryingly. And crawls out and looks up and down. I chuckled and gave her a thumbs up, and she sighed in relief, rubbing away her teary eyes. Oh, okay, cat, you care about me. That's adorable. She punched me and blushed, and I laughed, then frowned at the destroyed cafe. So what caused them to do this? I asked. Like, I just want to help is all. She looks at me and sighs, but not meeting my eye. We should start cleaning up this mess. She walked away and I followed after her. She handed me a broom that we started to clean up. Blake called the cops, and the cafe was closed for rebuilding and maintenance to fix the damage. After closing the cafe, we headed home. A few hours later, Blake, I whined. She's been so grouchy since the incident, but she looks so adorable, like an angry little kitten. I say under my breath. She playfully punches my shoulder. She must have heard me. I laughed and scratched her cat ears at first. She tensed up, but closed her eyes and started purring loudly, and she was leaning closer to me, rubbing against me. Yang, you're so warm, she purred. I kept petting her ears. Once I heard her breathing slow and soft, and I knew she had fallen asleep. I picked her up in my arms bridal style and walked to her bedroom. She was light in my arms. She moved closer to my chest, her ears twitched under my neck. I placed her on the bed, brushing away a small strand of hair from her face. I smiled and placed a blanket over her and went downstairs. I sat on the couch and started watching TV before falling asleep. That's the second chapter. Woo. I guess I'd try to get this done in 2 parts, but I don't know. This might be a little bit long for that, so. Okay. Yes, please. Okay. Blake's POV. I opened my eyes to a pleasant smell. I got up and walked down to her. She smells good. Hey, kitty cat. She laughs. I sniff and saw a package in the garbage can. Yang. Yang, I paused. Is that what I think it is? She moved in front of the trash can. Nope. She pops the pee. Then I then lunged at her. She attacked my ears by scratching them. I tackled her and rubbed against her, and I looked at her hand and bite her. Ow! She yelped. She narrowed her eyes at me. Blake, no. She walked to the sink and started to wash the blood off. Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bite that hard, he said gloomily, and I went to the living room and grabbed the first aid kit. Still where I left it, on the coffee table. I walked back into the kitchen and reached for Yang's hand. I cleaned the bite and wrapped it up with some bandages. I looked up to Yang, and she was blushing really hard. Her face was close to mine. She leaned in and kissed me. I freeze up and I moved back and covered my lips with my hand and looked away. I'm sorry, Yang. I can't. I'm sorry. I looked back at her eyes showing understanding. All right, come on, let's eat. She set the plate of food on the table and we ate in silence. Hey, do you want to go to the mall? I asked, finishing my food. Sure, I've been wanting to get new clothes. She's quickly stuffing the pancakes in her mouth. Hey, you're going to choke if you eat that fast. She started choking on the pancakes. I sighed. At the mall. We walk around the mall. Yang got a few clothes and I got me. She pulled me close. She would apologize every time she did, but when her arm was around me, I felt protected and warm and very comfortable. It made my heart skip a beat when she pulled me close. Her scent was a mix of coconut and lavender. Her scent made me want to curl up into a ball and have a relaxing sleep. Blake, is that you? I look back and am faced to see an old friend from high school. Soul? I gasp and then run to him and hugging me, spun me around, holding me tightly. I giggled. Hey Blake, it's been so long. How are you? He chuckled and I grinned. Yeah, it has. You know, same old. I beamed. Or yeah, it has. Something, I don't know. I finally got my cafe. You should probably come by. The others would probably want to see you again. He nods. He then chuckled and nudges behind me. So who is this person behind you that keeps giving me the death stare? I looked behind me to see that Yang was glaring at Soul. Her face was sketched with jealousy. I blushed furiously. She's jealous. I turn around and face Soul, my back towards Yang. Just ignore her. So how are you? He chuckles nervously, scratching his cheek. Well, I have a concert here, and I knew you were here, so I was going to ask you to go, but it seems you're busy. He chuckles nervously. I shook my head and heard Yang walk behind me. No, my cafe is closed for now, so I have nothing else to do. He smiled. Well, how about both of you come? I'll get you a backstage ticket. Yang was going to speak, but I interrupted her. Yeah, sure, thanks. Sloan and I talked a few more minutes before we had to leave to get ready for the concert. By the time we finished shopping, it was already late, so we headed home. Yang falls flat on the couch. Yang, you alright? I kneeled down and poke her cheek. She groans. I laugh at her response and went to go grab a blanket. Placed it over her. I turned around and turned off the lights. She shifted in her sleep and I went up next to her and started poking her cheek. She grabbed my arm and pulled me to her. Her arm wraps around my waist. Her grip tightened when I tried to leave. She nuzzled her head into my neck. I shivered as I felt her hot breath down my neck. I sighed and pulled. Okay, maybe the spot where Blake slept. Yang's POV, Chapter 4. Jesus. I looked at the spot where Blake slept. I remember how my face nuzzled into her neck, her soft hair against my face. Her skin was so soft and beautiful. I was breathing in her remaining scent. It was the only thing that made me relax a bit from Blake and the boys' date. Sure. I growled the thought. She had told me before leaving me alone in the house that she wouldn't allow me to cuddle her. Plus, she limited my snacks. I needed my snacks. I pounded a bit and got up and stretched. I walked around the house looking at photos and books. I found myself at the front door. I'm so bored. I walked outside and started walking to the cafe. I saw the windows were fixed, but the inside was a mess. I walked to the back and went through the back. Of course I had keys too. I rolled up my sleeves and started working at the now clean cafe. What am I doing? What am I even... Okay, I pop my back and start to head back home. Ah! Home, I whispered. I haven't been home for a while. My little sis must be worried. I kept walking to Blake's house. Something. I don't know. I walk in and took off my shirt, leaving me in my sport bra. I heard noise upstairs and slowly went up to see Blake and still on the bed. I growled. She ours, not his, or something like that. I shook my head. I felt a bloodlust starting to build up. I run out and black out or something. Blake's PV. I stopped, son. Sure. Wait, I'm sorry. He stops and stares at me. What? What's wrong? He got off me. Sorry. I like you, but I don't love you. I groaned. I'm sorry. I'm confused. He places his hand on my shoulder. Blake, it's okay. I understand. If you ever need me, call me. He kissed my forehead, then he left. I sighed and laid in bed. I closed my eyes and fell asleep. I woke to movement. I get from my bed and walk out of my room. Ah, I felt arms wrap around me. I punched their face. Blake, they whispered. I felt them put their hand on my neck. I covered my mouth. I smelt blood. They tightened their grip on me and inhaled my scent. I felt this tranquility and safe in this person's arms. I knew this. Ah! Yang? She tightens her grip and nuzzles more into my neck. I blush. Yang, you need a bath. I got her to my bathroom. I flip on the light, saw she was in her sport bra and shorts. I was really red. I looked at her eyes and they were watching me. Her eyes were red. Her stare made me shiver with desire. I shook my head. Take a bath. I'll come back. I'll come with some clothes. She nods. I close the door and lay my back on the door. I covered my face. I was so bloody red. She was hot, her abs. Oh my God. I got up quickly and shook my head, trying to get the dirty thought from my head. I grabbed some clothes and walked back to my room, placed the clothes on the bed, and walked downstairs. My ears twitched when I heard the shower shut off. There were silences. I waited for a few minutes before heading back up. I went to my door and knocked on it. The door opened. I was met with familiar lavender eyes. Yang, why did you... I didn't finish my sentence when she places her warm lips on mine. She wrapped her arms around me, pulling me in. And that is where we're gonna end here. And I guess we might end up doing like 3 parts-ish. I don't know. We'll see what I can do. That'll be the end for now. Yeah.